for that. Welcome to the Sports Lounge, the 106th edition, the precursor to the 9-hour Daytona 500. Travis Grins here, Marcus Traxler, David Schottenkirk, joining us on the program. Gentlemen, the Daytona 500.
Start your engines.
Start your engines up. An hour and a half little pre-race show. There seems to be a lot of people. They had Kid Rock on there. Thousands of people standing on the grass. I'm sure that's not good for the grass. Chris Myers doing whatever the hell he does. Where's Rondé Barber? I'm not quite sure. Daytona 500, do you get into that more than any other race? How much are you going to follow NASCAR after this race here? Mr. Trax.
I'm going to make, I say this I think every year, but I'm going to make a conscientious effort to watch some more of these races because David sends me messages about them whether I watch them or not. So I'm going to make an effort to tune in. I have favorite drivers, Denny Hamlin, number one, and unlike, I like Dale Jr., but I'm not like fanatical about him like some people are, and yeah, it is fun to watch. This is obviously the biggest race of the year, so I'll be tuned in.
I definitely get a little more amped up for this one than the others, but like Marcus said, I watch pretty much as many all of them as I can. And I follow it pretty in-depthly and practice qualifying the whole 9 yards. It's funny that Marcus brings up Denny Hamlin as his favorite driver because he's been the source of some controversy this week already, and we'll see how he does today. But spitting out Danica twice and that whole their interaction after the dual race was quite something for TV, and I found it kind of funny, especially some of the words that Danica chose to use in such context that I got a real chuckle out of.
Are there any NASCAR fantasy leagues out there we may frequent?
Sure are. I tried to get Mark on, but he turned me down. So
what the hell?
I'm already in his fantasy golf league, and that's hard enough for me to remember to make my picks in time for. So I just said no to NASCAR. I have been in a fantasy NASCAR league before. It's got to be almost 10 years ago now. But yeah.
Winners today, winners for the season.
Today, I'm taking Jimmy Johnson, not much of a surprise. For the season, I'll go out on a little bit of a limb. I'll take Joey Logano to win the championship.
All right.
I'll just take the opposite of that. I'll take Joey Logano today and Jimmy Johnson to win the championship.
I really like they've been switching this chase format for the last 10 years, dinking with it. I thought last year, I think they're going to keep this for a while. Based on wins, you win, you get in, points, you get in. I thought this last year's chase was the best, where they knock out about 4 drivers every 3-4 weeks. I think this is here to stay. Did you enjoy this as much as I did? Because I thought it was very good.
For me, it's a little bit gimmicky for my taste. I get why they built up the drama in that last race. There's 4 guys that have all the chance in the world to win the championship. I get it, but it takes the drama factor. The one bad race, anybody could get knocked out because evident by a lot of the big names weren't even eligible in that last race at Homestead last year to potentially win the title. Drama-wise, it worked out. Harvick won the last 2 weeks, won the title. Good for him. He probably was the most consistent all year. It worked out that way, but there are a lot of nightmare scenarios that could come true, a.k.a. Ryan Newman last year didn't win a race, and going into the last race, if he would have finished ahead of the other 3 guys, even if he would have took 25th place, and the other guys all crashed, he would have been your title holder, and I would have found that to be very, very troublesome.
Yeah, I think it's a good format for people like me, people like Travis, who are your casual fans. It's not good for your diehards who follow the season year long, and it's not good for rewarding teams that win a lot. But that they've tried basically every other format, so they need to move the needle somehow, especially considering their championship is during football season, and so I don't have a huge problem with it. You just hope that worthwhile drivers end up winning it. Ryan Newman, that would have sucked a lot if he would have won last year.
It's not taking anything against Ryan Newman. He's a great driver, one of the smartest guys in all of NASCAR. But it's just he was 1 race away from winning a championship without winning a race. Matt Kenseth did that 10 years ago, or whatever, and that was the start of all the changing of the old system that they had. Is that the consistency they put more emphasis on winning. But it almost happened again 10 years later with Newman. So I think it's an okay system. I've liked previous systems a little bit better, but they could definitely be in a worse position too.
Back in the day, you'd have the race pretty much decided, at least with probably 2 races left. You knew the champ was going to be already clinched it, and he knew way beyond that because he had a points lead of 100 points or so. But now it's kind of like sports, where you got the regular season. Okay, now you have to prove it in the playoffs as well. And if Jesus Christ, and if you have one bad week, well, that can maybe cost you. Just like if you have one bad week in the playoffs, that could cost you as well. Who's going to be singing this damn thing here? What country singer will be singing here? Do we know?
I don't remember. I saw it yesterday, but it's already spaced my mind. I know Vince Vaughn is doing the start your engine command.
Hopefully he has a heart attack while he's doing it.
I'd co-sign on that. That's completely fine with me.
Wow.
I don't. Yeah, not a fan.
I don't get it at all.
It's probably for some dumb movie.
Yeah.
Dumb movie.
Another thing that I liked yesterday watching these old Daytona finishes is how small the grandstand was in like the mid '80s. Yeah. It was just one decent sized piece on the right on the start finish line, and that was basically it. So obviously it's much different, and some of these, I mean, Daytona, they're going through a $400 million renovation. A lot of the other tracks on the circuit are way more intense than Daytona.
I get a bone to pick with Mr. Joey Chitwood about their expansion too, but we can save that for a later time or date. It'll take. That could go on a whole show. I'll pick some random time. Maybe when they're there in July, we'll have to discuss.
We'll say that for the July 4th race there. What was it? 1979 was the first live race they broadcast.
Yep.
Was it on CBS? And I think that's somewhat amazing that was the first race.
Yeah, that is.
Apparently, the singer of the national anthem here, the heir to the Philips light bulb fortune. So I don't know. this unknown fellow won a contest of some sorts, possibly. So we'll give you updates. We'll give you when this first caution happens about lap 5 and knocks out half the field. We'll break in with that. NBA trade deadline this past week. Plenty of trades late. Not a whole lot of big names trading places or teams, what I consider championship contenders. But the Phoenix Suns were the big story. Goran Dragic, point guard, says, I don't want to be on a roster with 10 other point guards. I want to be a starter by myself and play the point guard position, so send me to Miami. That's fine. He's not signing there next year to Phoenix, so you trade him. But the thing that I don't get is they got rid of Isaiah Thomas and sent him to Boston, and they get Brevin Knight from Milwaukee. He's a free agent. Isaiah Thomas is signed for 4 years, 3 or 4 years. David, the Isaiah Thomas trade is the one I have the most problem with. Explain, if you could, explain how the Suns sign off on this deal and say, yes, we'll take this.
That's a good question. I've had, going back and forth in my own head about that, but they must, like their GM came out and said, they firmly believe that they got the best player in the deal in Brandon Knight, which I have, pretty big problems with. Obviously, he's very good. He's having one of his best career seasons to date so far. That trade as a whole doesn't make any sense to me at all. The moving parts. Michael Carter-Williams going into Milwaukee now, that's insane to me. Different part of that angle of that deal, but Phoenix-wise, if you're going to get rid of one, fine, you get rid of both of those guys, and then what are you left? You're kind of, right now, I think they're in the 8th or 9th spot in the West, fighting for that playoff spot. They might just see that, even if they did get in this year, they weren't going to do anything, obviously, so blow it up a little bit, get a few guys, and see what you can do. As Knight, again, is not exactly, he's not a rebuild guy. He's a guy you're going to want to win with, but they need other guys around it. They need bigs, number one. I mean, they have the Morris twins, and then something called Alex Len that was like the 5th pick of the draft a few years ago that hasn't done much. Jeff Hornacek is doing a pretty good job down there. If they get any sort of capable big, they're going to be a fun team to watch. And they are without one. Eric Bledsoe, there's rumors coming out of Phoenix is that Dragic didn't get along at all with Bledsoe. He wanted to be the guy. He didn't want to be in that ball sharing situation. He wanted to be somewhere where he was the guy, and I don't blame him because when he's been on the court the last 4, 5, 6 years, he's been super effective. But be it Houston, be it Phoenix, or his other stuff that I can't think of right now for a year. I think he was in Houston for a year. He was always playing 25 minutes or so, and he wants to be playing 35, 40 minutes a night. And, he's been one of the most effective offensive players in the league when he's on the court, so he's going to go down to Miami. Interesting situation, and I was going to go out with a massive, massive prediction about the Miami Heat until the Chris Bosh news came down. That tempered my expectations the rest of the way. But I'll go ahead and preface it and say it this way, though, that obviously Bosh is done for the year. That switches all of this. But if he were to stay healthy and Goran was there, you can make a very strong argument that would be the best starting five in the NBA.
Marcus, starting five in the NBA: Dragic, Wade when healthy, Bosh, Deng. Where would you put that?
Hassan Whiteside.
Whoa!
Right? Everybody loves Hassan Whiteside. I don't know about best starting five in the NBA, but obviously the Bosh news is just a complete game changer for Miami because I don't know if they're back where they started before that trade. I mean, they were only separated by a day or two, but it's gonna be difficult for them to probably make any more of a run than what they had with Bosh. I don't know. That's just me.
The Suns, I was thinking you can trade Isaiah Thomas, but keep Dragic, and hopefully he would sign there. But if there's problems with Bledsoe, and that ain't going to work, you move Bledsoe to be more of a two guard, and Dragic can be your point guard. I think that would work. But then they trade this first round pick that they received from the Lakers. They won't get it this year because the Lakers will have a top 5 pick, but they'd likely get it next year because it's top 3 protected in 16 and 17, so they probably get a pick there. Instead, they switch that. The Suns will get the Cavaliers' first-round pick next year, and 2 first-round picks from Miami in 17 and 21. So the Suns, they also get Danny Granger, so if you have a Danny Granger jersey, you might want to update that to Phoenix Suns. John Salmons, enjoyed him with the Bulls 5 years ago. That was 5 years ago. Dragic, you would assume he'll sign with Miami. Brandon Knight, does he sign with Phoenix then, or does he test the market?
He's probably going to test the market, but I think Phoenix, they're all in. They're going to, whatever he needs, they're going to give it to him. They don't make that deal without any pretty well confidence that they're going to be able to sign him this offseason.
The other trade that was surprising, made some noise locally. We always like to keep it local. Kevin Garnett comes back to the Minnesota Timberwolves after a few years gone and a title with Boston. Bag of bones Garnett, nearly 40 years old. Thaddeus Young, they give up 14 and 6 or so a game, decent numbers. But again, he's a free agent, not going to sign in the offseason, you would not expect. So I'm fine with that trade. Are you fine with that trade, Marcus?
I am. I think part of the problem was that they kind of bungled the trade to get Young. Isn't that right? Where they ended up giving up a draft pick they didn't really need to give up. Is that right? The Wolves?
Or to Philadelphia?
Yeah.
They backed themselves in the corner and cost themselves a higher pick than they would have taken to get him.
Yeah. So I don't have a problem giving up Thaddeus Young. I think this is, it's the same thing we've heard for a while. Kevin Garnett and the Wolves, it just seems like it's going to be a pretty good fit. Kevin Garnett and Flip are unbelievably close. I'm a firm believer that Kevin Garnett will own a portion of the Timberwolves someday, and this is the very first step to doing that. Maybe as soon as he decides to retire, it sounds like he's going to sign an extension at the end of the season, so he's not planning on this just being a 2-month deal. And I've heard a lot of sort of negative things about how Garnett's not, they need to focus on the young players, but this is a team that really does need a veteran presence at this point. Garnett, he can be an asshole, but he also knows how to win, and he's very intense. And if you're not going to do things Garnett's way, you're going to be in trouble. And I think that's fine. I think that's good to have somebody who knows how to win, somebody who's been there, somebody who's been in Minnesota and knows how to win. I think that's a good fit for this team. I'm very eager to see how it goes. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
You mean to tell me that Kevin Martin and Chase Budinger are not the veteran presence you need in the locker room?
I'll say that.
Okay.
Oh, wow. I'd say he's going to be that coach type guy. And do you see coaching at all? I know the ownership you mentioned, that's been rumored. That's probably coaching. Is that something you could see him doing?
I want him to be a player coach. I know it's never, ever going to happen. But I would get. It would be so comical when they're down 20 points with 2 minutes before halftime, and he calls a timeout, and just they don't even go to the bench. He just starts screaming at guys on the court and in people's faces and doing everything that he does demonstrably. And obviously that's said in a joking manner, but I don't think he's interested in coaching. I think he's more interested in the ownership aspect. I think him and Flip have always been close, even they haven't been together here, and obviously, 8-10 years or whatever it's been, but that relationship's still been there as, guys that came, Garnett learning under him and learning everything he did and the success that they did have together. But as a guy that Garnett's going to be 39, 40 years old, he's still got a lot of life left, and he wants to be able to set something up for the long term. So I think moving back to Minnesota is the best for him, and we'll see how it works. I'm not so optimistic. I think there's for as much potential as it could be really good, there's also the flip side of that where it could be, fire and ice, and him coming in and telling these young kids how to do exactly everything the right way, and it could come off a little bit coarse, and Wiggins and the like might not grasp onto it as much as everyone would hope. KG's quote unquote old school, and we'll see how that works.
I mean, from what I've read, Rubio, Wiggins, all of them have said the right things. It's like you said, though, it's going to depend on what actually happens when Garnett's in there and they get a few weeks under their belt, and Garnett rips her ears a few times, and we'll see how much those young players are still into that. So, I agree. I think it will turn out okay, but there's an equal chance that this goes south and it could be not great. But I think Garnett has shown an interest in mentoring this team. There wasn't much to mentor in Brooklyn, and that seemed like a losing situation for him. So
that's a big shot at Mason Plumlee there. Come on. You mean something to build around?
He's not something to build around, no.
He was in the dunk contest. Come on, he was in the dunk contest. Any chances that the Wolves maybe make a play for old Villanueva here? Can we get that going?
Wouldn't that be something, man? The old cancer patient. That's still one of my favorite insults of all time.
Ruthless.
Ruthless, yeah.
A ruthless son of a gun that does not care. I saw a post on Facebook. Maybe Marcus saw it. I don't know. Somebody didn't like the trade. I mean, does it really matter? I mean, how do you not like it? Nathan's not on the show, but he said that I think he doesn't like the trade, which I would like to hear his opinion. To me, not being a fan of either team, I don't really care. I mean, it's like, that's fine, go ahead. I mean, you're not giving up anything. You're giving up, Thaddeus Young. That's fine. Garnett's not there for what he's not there for his 8 points and 6 rebounds a game. That's not going to make a difference. He's there to help other people. So help me see that light of, I hate this trade, this is stupid, why do you do this?
A lot of that stems from the fact that we don't know what the money factor is going to be in his extension if he does sign it. If it's an over the top extension that they give him an extra $2-3 million a year just because he's coming home or whatever, then people would have somewhat of a right to be upset. But even then, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Getting rid of Thaddeus Young, a guy that wasn't going to sign here this summer anyways, Kevin Garnett, the best player in franchise history, coming home. From an ownership standpoint, I hate to admit it, but Glenn Taylor's got to be doing backflips wherever he's at right now, because ticket sales for these next few months will be through the roof again. Through the roof in a sense. They'll probably average 500, 1,000 more people a game than they would have without KG these last 2 months of this season. And moving forward, even if they do struggle again next year, it's one last chance to see KG. And if it turns out he's not an asshole, people are going to be excited to go see him, even though he is a quote-unquote shell of his former self. The only, like I said, the only thing that had people that are so vehemently against it is they're always washed up and they don't understand all the other aspects, from the ticket sales to merchandise to potentially KG having a stake in the team within 2 or 3 years.
Are there any other trades that tripped your trigger? Aaron Aflalo to Portland.
The biggest one for me that was kind of under the radar, I mentioned to Traxler on deadline day, was Enes Kanter from Utah going to Oklahoma City, 22-year-old center from Kentucky that was supposed to be at Kentucky, but due to eligibility issues, never played there. He was overseas for a year. He came over. He's 22 years old. He's been improving every year. He's, I don't have his numbers in front of me, but he's 12, 13 points a night. This year, as a guy that's going to be backing up Serge Ibaka, that's a great bench player. It's an instant offense. He's shooting 55% from the field. Quality enough defense. They get rid of Kendrick Perkins, who's going to go to Cleveland, which makes no sense to me, but we can get to that at another later date. But they didn't give up much. They got him and the combination. They got DJ Augustine too. I think Oklahoma City won the deadline. I think they hit a home run. I think that's a dangerous team. I think no matter what seed they get in the first round, they're going to be. For me, if they stay healthy at this point, that's a team that I have pretty much locked into the Western Conference Finals.
Thunder?
Yep.
Yeah, 13. He had 32 minutes for Kanter the other night in his first appearance. 10 points, 13 rebounds. That's pretty good.
Yep.
Philadelphia traded away Michael Carter-Williams. It's kind of been rumored for a while, but still surprising. They trade last year's Rookie of the Year in a terrible Rookie of the Year class, but he was the best of that bunch. They get a first-round pick from the Lakers. Where the hell the Lakers get all these first-round picks from? They send one to Phoenix, which then sends it to whoever the hell they sent it to. Philadelphia gets one. They won't see that until next year.
Out there are assuming that they're moving all these picks, knowing that the Silvers already promised them Mr. Okafor from Duke, so they can go ahead and move on because they're getting the number one pick. That's one theory, and I am just kidding, but
no, I believe it.
It's food for fodder, anyways.
And it's they get JaVale McGee. That's cute. But they got all of these second-round picks. A second-round pick from Denver, a second-round pick from Houston, first-round pick from Oklahoma City, which they might get this year depending on where they finish. It's protected up to number 18. So I mean that's a mid-round pick, first round. That Lakers pick. The lesser of Denver or Minnesota's second-round pick. So they get all these second-round picks, which doesn't amount to shit. They get Isaiah Cannon, OVC All-Star, terrific. KJ McDaniels, apparently a lot of people like him. And it's Michael Carter-Williams. I think even though this is his second year, and I think we kind of know what he's going to be. Will he ever be an All-Star? I highly doubt that. He'll kind of be. He's better than average, obviously. He's not quite an all-star. But Marcus, Philadelphia making more trades. People are going nuts about them trading probably their best player. Do you have a big problem with this? Because it doesn't seem like they got a lot in return.
I mean, they know they got to tank. If you're going to tank, you got to tank harder. You got to tank harder than the teams next to you. And so, they certainly need to do that. I mean, Michael Carter-Williams, he's shooting, 28 or 29% for the year?
That's not good.
I'm not sure exactly about that.
That don't sound right. That sounds historically low.
That's
bad.
Probably from 3, yeah.
Oh, from 3. Okay.
Anyway.
Well, he can be just like Jason Kidd, a guy that couldn't shoot, and he can learn from him. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at Philadelphia. I mean, all those picks. I don't know if this year's draft class is going to be any better than the last couple we've had. It seems like they have a plan, but exactly how they're going to go about it is unclear.
Their plan is to get high picks, but like you said, outside of the top 2 last year, we'll see what this draft class is, and we'll see how good this year's draft class is. It's all about if the draft class is going to be any good. Maybe we're in a run of historically terrible drafts, and we'll look at this 10 years from now and say, how stupid was Philadelphia to tank when there were, 3 or 4 players in like a 5-year span who were worth the shit, and nobody else was very good. And right now that they've won, I mean, they got that double-digit mark, so they've done that. They're 2 games ahead of the Knicks right now. They're tied with Minnesota wins-wise. The Lakers are 1 win better. So those are your 4 teams. They're all within 2 games of each other. One of those 4 is getting it, and one of those 4 is getting screwed and getting the 4th or 5th pick. If Philadelphia does win this thing, get the lottery, I mean, how the hell they got to take Okafor, because he's probably better than Nerlens Noel or Embiid. What the hell do you do with Embiid, for God's sake?
Trade one of them.
I mean, you probably, but it's like you're going to trade a top 5 pick for a bag of beans, because who the hell? I don't see anybody taking a chance on Embiid. I don't know, maybe they would, but I don't think you're going to get a lot for him. So,
yeah,
Philadelphia.
I mean, the one I don't know who said it, but the one thing I read was that don't let JaVale McGee near Embiid or Noel, because he'll mess them up. Especially Embiid. He seems like he's enjoying this year off.
Yes. I like this idea that Philadelphia's doing, but there's so much out of your control to where you just don't know if it's going to work. If you got a guy like my Bobcats, they tried, and goddamn, they almost got Davis. They came very close. They tried their damnedest. They have worst record ever. But damn it, if it didn't go to Charlotte, or if it didn't go to the Hornets instead. So finally, you got the Knicks and the Lakers. The Knicks obviously have a better chance because of the conference they're in to make the playoffs. Are they that far away, since both teams have a lot of money to spend? You would think one of these teams will get Okafor. Is it as simple as you give one of these guys Okafor, you give one of them a big-time free agent if they sign, and they're not a title contender, but they're right back in the playoff race? Because those are 2 guys, 2 starters. They bring back Kobe. Is it that simple, or are these teams far, far, far away?
I think it's that simple for the Knicks. If they get Okafor and they get somebody else in there to help out Melo, they'll be in the playoffs next year. I think it's a little bit more complicated for the Lakers. They're going to be Okafor. If they get an Okafor, if they get a top 2 or 3 pick, they're going to be moving in the right direction, but they're still a ways away, with Kobe being pretty much a shell of himself again, beginning his last year, and we'll see if he can recover again and be anything next year for him. I think they're 2 or 3 years away regardless. I think that a bigger picture plan for them is better.
Are you holding out much hope for a Minnesota first-round pick? What, they've never moved up in the draft as far as their draft position is?
It's got to happen one of these years.
But right now, they got the worst. They do have the worst record, or they're 2 losses better than the Knicks, tied in the win column. So it's them and the Knicks right now. If Minnesota does have that worst record, that'd be a tough pill to swallow if they don't get that first pick.
I mean, it would be. Part of me wonders if they shouldn't have just tanked. I mean, or I don't know if maybe the move for Garnett is tanking. I don't know, but yeah. I mean, and sadly they've been right at 500 with Rubio since he came back. I think I saw the other night 5-6 with him. So
yeah, if he's healthy, maybe they got 7-8 more wins right now. Who knows?
Yeah.
The MVP race. I talked about it a couple weeks ago. I think this Curry is going to win just because of Golden State's going to get that 1 seed, and he's having a good year. LeBron, you can always give it to him if you want to. Harden having a good year as well. Davis a little banged up right now. He's kind of the team not going to make the playoffs. And then Russell Westbrook, something we brought up last night in the chat. Numbers basically the same as LeBron, slightly better. David, thoughts on Russell Westbrook, MVP candidate, injuries, team doesn't have the best record because of those injuries, and the guy does tend to shoot quite a bit.
He shoots more than LeBron. He's 60% less effective from the field. 43 to 49% from the field.
Yep.
Big difference. And the biggest difference why I don't think he has any chance no matter what is the fact that he plays, for how athletic he is, he's not a very good defender. That's the biggest knock for me. LeBron's world-class defender. He's been an all-NBA defensive team, first team 5 or 6 times in his career. Westbrook's never been on that. I think that separates him, on top of the fact that Westbrook shoots more, is less effective, and their average is pretty much the same throughout. You can look at, yes, Westbrook's averaging like an assist more and a rebound and a half more, but I think LeBron's numbers are going up. Both those guys haven't played all season. They've missed their stretches, but I think Curry, I'm kind of warming up to that, even though I don't think he's, over the long run, that he's really the most valuable player because, again, he doesn't play any defense. But it's a great offensive team. They got him and Klay Thompson doing special things. It's a little bit of a weak year. I would be a year like this, I'd be in favor of a guy like James Harden winning it, to be honest.
I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast this last week, and they made a. I guess I haven't watched a ton of the Rockets this season, but James Harden's playing some defense as opposed to last year when he just stood around with his hands in his pants. So this is a new James Harden. I think that probably helps his MVP case a little bit.
Those 5 names I mentioned, are those the top 5?
Yeah, without thinking too in depth, that seems reasonable.
For Curry MVP, that's who I've got. I think Bill Simmons made this argument that when you look back at a year, 10, 20, 30, however far in the future, you look back at a year and say, what will we remember from this year? Will we remember Harden? Will we remember Westbrook, LeBron, whoever? I think we'll remember Golden State and Curry. If that's a valid way to vote for an MVP, maybe or maybe not. But I think when we look back at this year, we'll think, oh, Steve Kerr and Golden State won like 65 games. That was a surprise. Curry's the MVP. Is that okay with you?
I really wouldn't have any problem with it. Even though it doesn't, that way I think it really doesn't register with me. But again, I wouldn't have a big problem with it at all.
I think that's kind of stupid.
It's an interesting way to look at saying, it's different if you're trying to figure out, who to choose for an MVP.
I mean, why would that matter? Why,
Well, like usually if you would think, okay, 1996, who do I think of? I think of Michael Jordan and the Bulls. Well, he's the MVP. Was he the best player? Yes, he was. Other years you're like 1972. Hell if I know. Maybe we can look back 30 years from now and we can say, oh yeah, 2002, this guy, he was really good. So usually if you remember a guy because of a certain season, he should probably win MVP. Like, 2001, Barry Bonds. Well, no shit. Yeah, obviously. Mr. Traxler wrote a little something for the blog, NFL Combine. Looking at the smaller schools, your FCS schools, your Division I, 2s, and 3s. What did you find out? And did you come to a consensus that it does make a difference to go to this combine, and players that do go to this combine do fairly well in the draft?
Yeah, it helps slightly. I'm trying to remember all the numbers now in my head, but in the last
3 years,
you've had about 55% of the guys who go to the. I don't remember the numbers. Anyway,
let me get it up here.
About a 15% advantage to going, if you're from a small school, being in the combine as opposed to just being drafted outright. So I was just trying to calculate some sort of idea of, Zenner's the first guy in almost 20 years to go from SDSU. And he plays a very. I would like to look at running back because that's a very competitive position, and we've had so many players in recent years make it undrafted or find some sort of different way to make it. And like this year is a great year to look at it because you've got three guys in this conference, Missouri Valley Conference, that are NFL prospects, and I'm just really intrigued by that whole deal with those three teams. So I think Zenner certainly didn't hurt himself this weekend with his performance, and I just, leading up to this, I had worked on it for a couple months. I wanted to sort of have an idea of what sort of help you'd have by going to the combine, and because they try to pick players that they think are going to be drafted, I think that helps, and it helps that it's made up of personnel people, scouts, and they've already looked at these guys, and they have an idea if they like them or not.
70% of the drafted small school players have been to the combine.
Okay, that's right.
In the last 3 years, there's been 95 players from small schools. 53 of them have been drafted, so about half, 56%.
Right.
Which,
yeah, 95 players from small schools at the combine, 56% of them drafted. But of all the players drafted from small schools, 70% of them have been at the combine. So
15%.
Yes.
And you said that you were surprised that it was only 56%, which I would tend to agree with that, because if you go to the combine, you'd expect you're probably going to get drafted if you're definitely if you're a FBS player, but not so much. It's kind of basically a toss-up.
Yeah, it was most interesting to me because and another position to look at would be quarterback. And there's like a couple guys every year who are at the combine, and it's pretty rare that they're drafted. I can't foresee there being an FCS quarterback that gets drafted this year. Brian Bennett, the guy at Southeastern Louisiana, he's at the combine. I don't think he's getting drafted, the former Oregon quarterback. And offensive lineman and defensive lineman feels like the one position where there's a lot of guys who go to the combine from small schools, and a good percentage of them get drafted, but there's also a good percentage that don't go to the combine and they get drafted too. So that seems like the true 50-50 position. And I feel like I just scratched the surface on some of this, and who knows if I'll be able to get into more of it, but very interesting.
Do you want to look at positions more, certain conferences? What do you want to do here in the coming months?
I think I have to look at conferences for sure. The one conference.
Well, I mean, don't even waste your time looking at the Missouri Valley, for Christ's sake.
Number one with a bullet.
I mean, my God. I mean, you got Youngstown State, for Christ's sake. Who's going to compete with that shit, Penguins? Come on.
The one conference that I did kind of look at was the Ivy League, who's had 11 players drafted since 2004. And when I was looking at this, it seemed like a lot of their guys were making it without going to the combine. And I was wondering if there was any sort of correlation. They don't let their teams play in the playoffs. Maybe they don't let their guys go to the combine. But they've had 5 guys at the combine that have been drafted. And so there's not really enough there for me to draw a strong link. But I want to look at the Valley. I want to look at the Big Sky. Your Blue Bloods, Montana, Georgia Southern, Appalachian State. Those are teams that have guys drafted on like an every other year basis. And so, this is something you would do, but I haven't done it yet, is look at their success in the NFL. Some of these guys, which are of the guys getting drafted, who's making the most impact. I did kind of look at that with defensive backs, because there's a high number of those also taken from FCS. But yeah, lots. You just crack open the case just a little when you start looking at some of this.
And guys that dropped down and either played or attended a BCS school and then decided to transfer.
Yep.
Those guys are a big deal.
The Janoris Jenkins, of course, being the number one example in the last 3 years. He ended up at Division II North Alabama, and still went in the second round, I think it was, to St. Louis. And he was a Pro Bowl alternate this last year. So, and I think he stayed out of trouble, which is actually more impressive than making the Pro Bowl for him, probably.
One of the rare folks. Stacken thinks he's getting drafted. Zach Zenner. I I'm on the fence. I don't think he will be. I think Marcus said no. David said, I believe, 10,000 or 100,000% yes.
Sure did.
Marcus, you said no, right?
I said no.
I think it's going to be close.
I'm on the fence too. I'm on the fence.
Seventh. I mean, it's 6th, 7th round at the earliest. I mean,
I think he could go in the 5th round. I think he could go undrafted. I mean, it's just I don't know, and I think he, his 40 time was about in the department we kind of thought he'd be in with 4.6, I think.
4.61.
4.61. 4.6. Yes. That seems about right. I'm guessing, it seems like these guys always have a faster 40 at their pro day anyway, so we'll see what happens there. He'll be on the new turf. Sure
it won't be in Frost or it won't be in Sioux Falls. Goddamn, look at us. We built us a building.
Look at that.
Damn, we spent $20 million. Look at us.
But obviously, everybody loves the vertical jump. 40 inches was surprising for me. I was not expecting that.
Nagy, sign him up.
Yeah, he should have been playing basketball all these years. What a missed opportunity.
Terrible.
The broad jump was very good. I think he was 3rd or 4th of all the running backs there. So, and obviously the bench press, same way. He had 25 reps on the bench press. Everybody loves that. And I think he's got as good a chance as anybody to get drafted. But it just seems like once you leave it to the 6th round, it's a crapshoot. At that point, you've got just as good a chance of being passed over as you do of being drafted. So we'll see. I think he's number 2. I would take him ahead of John Crockett for Valley running backs. David Johnson has kind of opened up the race as being the best running back in the league, and he has good speed. Very impressed by his 40, and teams love him. So I would expect he'll go 5th round, probably 4th round.
I think David said even before Zenner performed this week that he would get drafted. Why do you feel so strongly that Zach Zenner will go?
Well, partially because there's a storyline that people are kind of glossing over, is that the potential for him to become a fullback per se, like a quasi fullback, if he adds 15, 20 pounds, assuming a team falls in love with him, assuming their running back position is semi-set, to not have an athlete like that at that position, somebody that can do it and is willing to do it. It's very. I might be totally off base here. He might not have any interest, but there are teams already talking about the potential of him adding 15 pounds and becoming a fullback. That would be probably one of the most athletic fullbacks in the league. If he wants to be a true running back, I still think if he doesn't get drafted, so be it. He can have his choice where he goes as a priority free agent and go somewhere where he has a better chance to do something with a team that's running back position isn't so chock full of players there that he has to jump over. But he performed as well, or probably a little bit better in some of the categories, like Marcus said, than I thought. I think the brains, the overall production that he's had, it's very, very rare to see a back do what he did for so many years in a row. I think somebody's going to take a flyer on him and say, hey, there's a reason he might not be the flashiest guy, he might not be whatever, but he gets the job done. He's the quote-unquote launch pail guy, and he's got enough athletic ability to be at this level and produce. I would be, at this point, I'd still be very surprised if at the very least he doesn't get picked 6th, 7th round. And there's obviously at this point there's no way that he doesn't at least get a chance in some camp.
Zach Zenner, I think the one thing that really helps him is that he's very quick to the hole. Very quick to the hole and then obviously through it. We've seen that a ton. And, all you got to do is pop in the tape. You watch him. I know Kansas wasn't any good, but you watch him against Kansas. You watch him against Nebraska. This last year, he wasn't bad against North Dakota State. And so I think that helps. I think, the fact that he's run well against good teams will be a big factor for him. Missouri as well, and he does 220 is what he weighs now. I guess I don't know what the going rate is for weight on a fullback, but that if he adds 15 pounds, I could see him maybe fitting in there. So I guess I hadn't thought about fullback. I don't know if teams want to draft a fullback But
The
I
what I was getting at more with that, they're not necessarily going to be drafting a fullback. If they take him and then they potentially move him there after a while, it would be a fullback slash or a special teams guy because he's
Yeah.
obviously right. And you usually don't draft special teams guys. Obviously, you get the guys 35 through 53 in your roster that are your special team experts or whatever. But at the very least, he should be able to be on so many special teams for a couple of years. I think he's. I mean, I don't know if he obviously I don't think he played at all in college, but I'm sure in high school he was on special teams, returning kicks and on the coverage teams and whatever. I can only assume that, but I think there's all sorts of different different potentials that different spots he can fit on a roster.
Well, and for Zenner, I mean, I have a good feeling that he'd be willing to do that. He's not going to be an ego guy where he's going to say, I'm not going to play special teams. I'm done. I have a feeling that he'd be willing to do that if it means staying in the NFL and having a long career.
So he's the next Marquise Gray.
Well, the problem with Marquise Gray is that he shouldn't have been a tight end to begin with. So that's mostly where that I don't know what or fullback, H-back, whatever the hell they had him as. That was just a bad idea from the start.
The bigger
put the weight on, I guess.
The biggest problem with Marquise Gray is that he put the weight on, but then he didn't stop eating all the McDonald's and the Arby's and all that other good stuff. So,
from the 40 plays he played with Cleveland the year before, and the approximately 60 plays, 70 plays he played with Minnesota, I think he's an All-Pro. I mean, he's tremendous. Of the 140 plays he's played in 2 years, 140 more plays than we have. He's a tremendous talent that any team would be lucky to have. So hopefully somebody signs him because he looks to be a diabetic on waiting. So for the Combine, is there a better way to evaluate talent than jump and running? Is that the best way to do things? They all have the pro days. This is the Combine. Zenner, I don't give a shit that he jumps high. I don't give a shit that he bench presses good. That's fine. Shows that you're strong, I guess. Is he going to need to jump? I don't know. Probably not. Maybe he's going to block a field goal. Special teams. I don't know. The broad jump. Really don't care. Is this the best way to evaluate these people? Is this relevant information?
I think you need it. I mean, I think it's just part of knowing data about these guys. And as opposed to their pro days, I mean, it's the same for everybody. I imagine that at some of these pro days, it's not the same for everybody, and you're not going to be bench pressing there. I like that there's sort of a standardized test for everybody when it comes to these guys knowing what they can do and what they can't do.
Is that those standardized tests? Is that the government getting in our schools again? Is that what that's about?
It is, yeah.
God damn it. God damn it.
Yeah, damn liberals running the NFL Combine.
Sons of bitches.
I like the idea that we have just sort of a baseline that everybody got to do it, no matter if you're a weak quarterback or you're the strongest lineman, you're doing the bench press. If you're a fat guy, you're going to run the 40. I like it. I think I don't think any of that data should make a decision for anybody. I don't know what Troy Williamson ran for the 40. I know Darius Hayward-Bay was fast. But those guys shouldn't have been drafted as high as they were by the Vikings and Raiders, respectively. And I have a feeling that their 40-yard dashes had something to do with it. So, just you got to watch the tape. That's what will lead you to the right direction.
Wasn't it Rick Spielman that you post something that said that he's pretty much made up his mind now? And Drew was like, yeah, if you don't have your mind made up now, your draft board of sorts pretty much set. I mean, there can be fluctuations, up a few spots. But if you don't have your top 3, 4, 500 set right now, well, we're wasting our time.
Well, the thing I liked about Spielman, and I made this sort of vow that I wouldn't get into too much draft talk until Easter comes, but here I am getting into all this draft talk. And the one thing that I like what he said is that you have your draft board, you go to the Combine, and you do these pro days, but you're not going to change drastically where you have guys because of one bad performance or how a guy throws, and that's what happened with Bridgewater.
Yep.
And the media did knock Bridgewater down, but I think we've seen this with other guys too, where you become a prisoner of the Combine or of whatever, or the talk that you hear before the draft, and I think it's just not a good way to do things. Just from the standpoint that you're cheating yourself and you're cheating the player when you're not trusting what they did in the game for the last 3 or 4 years.
I think the interviews are the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was watching yesterday to see what Zenner did, and they skipped some of the 40s with the running backs to talk to Mariota and Winston at the same time, and they asked them, that question. Well, what was the weirdest thing they asked you? And neither one of them answered it. But what Winston was asked about.
Hey, did you rape that one girl? Did you?
Yeah, and I'm guessing that Mariota was asked, "Why are you so damn boring?" He probably was asked, "Do you like girls?" That sort of thing.
Are you gay?
I like that the scouts at the combine are 70-year-old great aunts.
I would really like I would like a big time prospect to say he's gay and just see him fall down that board to like the 4th round. I want Marcus Mariota to come out. Marcus Mariota's gay, and see him go to New England in the 4th round. I think that would be tremendous. And say, no, it had nothing to do. It had nothing to do with that. He just didn't throw well, and system quarterback he just didn't fit our system. So we decided to take him with the 120th pick in the draft, even though he was the #1 consensus pick for 2 years, and he's not that anymore. So, Mr. Schottenkirk doing some blog work as well, the bracketology. 2 new ones this past week. We'll see one coming down the pike next week probably. Is there any changes you've seen in the past week or so? What is your process of putting this together? Ins, outs, 1 seeds. Your bracketology. How confident are you in what you have right now?
Yeah, the one that's on the blog right now has been up there for two days now, so hopefully I should have one actually tomorrow morning ready to go, a Monday update. I'll try to update it probably twice a week, and then once we get into conference tournament time, I'll probably be daily.
Do it per half. Like if a team has 5 at the half, then
right.
Ole Miss is winning by 5.
Right, yeah, move them from Omaha to Jacksonville, move them up a seed line. Yeah,
do it like the percentages in the game. Well, this team's got an 80% chance to win right now. Oh, a pick 6. Now they're gonna lose. Do that.
Right. It's overall my process. I do look at a lot of the other quote-unquote expert stuff, and I take bits and pieces, and obviously a lot of the common sense stuff as far as the 1 seeds and where they're going to be, or Kansas, a 2 seed being in Omaha, stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not the first one to formulate that opinion, but I look at teams. I look a little bit. I take more value in road wins than some do. I take more value in the overall record than some do, which I probably shouldn't, but I do. The biggest changes this week, and especially with yesterday, Oklahoma State's going to be getting knocked down a few notches. West Virginia could move up a seed line or 2, but the 1 seeds are pretty well set. We had a little bit of for the first half last night, Gonzaga almost in trouble there, but they came back impressively and turned that 17-point deficit in the first half into a 10-point victory, which is pretty good at a rival on the road, but they got all the credit they deserve for that one. The 1 seeds, unless anything unforeseen happens, it's down to, I think, 5 teams that have a chance at it. Maybe 6 teams that have a chance at a 1 seed. It's pretty well set in stone already at this point, which is different compared to what it's been the last few years. It's nice. So basically, I just go through, region by region, and I get my top 4 seeds in each region, and then I start filling in the automatic bids, or the potential automatic bids for teams that I think are going to win the smaller conference tournaments, just based off what the record is in conference right now, or if there's a team that might be in second place that I still think is the best team is going to win the conference tournament, I'll throw them in there. It's really looking at RPIs, looking at all strength of schedules, looking at all the numbers that all the guys that do this for a living and the guys that do this on Selection Sunday do. I'm looking at all that stuff sometimes in way too much detail. Definitely the bracket I have up right now, there is There are a couple flaws. There's some teams that are traveling, across country. They probably won't be. They'll probably be in a different region for that purpose or the attendance purposes, even though they don't want to admit that they try their damnedest to get each region, a few teams anyways, that'll draw a decent number of people. Right. We can just go through the one seeds, obviously. Get Duke, Kentucky, Gonzaga, and who else do I have? I can't even think right now.
Virginia. Virginia.
Yeah, I've
Virginia.
right now. And no, on my update tomorrow, we're not going to have two ACC teams being one seeds, obviously. That's just based off on the overall resume right now. I think those are most deserving.
Do you have Wisconsin then moving up?
Wisconsin would be that. We'll take out one of those two teams. And right now, and maybe not tomorrow because Virginia only has one loss. But I think if Duke wins, runs the table or just loses one more game here, maybe that last game at North Carolina, and then wins the ACC tournament, I think even though Virginia would have won the ACC regular season, I think Duke's the more deserving one seed. Having road wins at Virginia, having a road win at Wisconsin, I think their resume is better. But right now, I still think those teams are more deserving than Wisconsin. It is a one seed. But if Wisconsin runs the table, which they very likely could, they'll be a one seed no matter what else happens. Two seeds, Arizona. Got Kansas against South Dakota State in Omaha is what I've projected. That would be the quote unquote murder in Omaha. The time Scott Nagy cried into somebody's arms at halftime when they're down 37 points.
Final score: Kansas 96, SDSU 57.
That seems about right. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. But yeah, it's just honestly, it's nothing out of the ordinary. Not that I got set up in a document that I can go on and change and move a team. For instance, LSU they're at an 11 seed right now. I haven't been playing SMU in Louisville. Another win for LSU yesterday. I think that was their 20th on the season. Maybe their 19th. They might be in line for a bump up, but we'll be changing this throughout as we go, and obviously it'll be fun for me because I'm convinced that I'll probably get, when it's all said and done, I'll probably get as many teams as all the other guys do, and we'll see if I'm more accurate in what region they go to and what city they're going to for the first two rounds and what the matchups are going to be. It's something I've wanted to do for a while, and I'm glad I'm doing it. I'm enjoying the heck out of it right now.
A lot of different variables, but Gonzaga, if they lose again, any way they get a one seed?
Nope. I think I alluded to this with Marcus last night. I don't know if he picked up on it or not, but I still think there's a pretty distinct possibility if they do run the table and don't lose, only have one loss. There's still a pretty good chance they're not going to be a one seed when it's all said and done. You got other teams moving up through the ranks that are have potential to increase their resumes much more so than Gonzaga does.
I do appreciate you appeasing me by putting Temple against Villanova, a potential second-round 10-2 upset. You tempt me, goddamn you, with a 10-2 upset, Temple over Villanova. And you put Georgetown there to piss Stacking off. So if we can get the third matchup, Georgetown Villanova, unlikely in a second round, but if we get that just to make Stacking blow his load all over the place, that'd be good. Yes.
You're lucky that Temple's even in the tournament.
Well, we're getting there. I mean, they're a second half team. They're a second half team. Even though they blew their lead in the second half versus SMU.
Today against Tulsa, otherwise they're in trouble.
Tulsa's currently out.
Tell me something bad about Tulsa.
Danny Manning. There you go.
Danny Manning, who, by the way, is not even coached there anymore. Fun fact.
Danny Manning. Wake Forest, he's doing good work there. He's going to do. Maybe they'll get to the NIT someday. We'll see.
5 years from now, they'll be in the tournament. They'll get beat as a 12 seed by 30.
You know, I'm looking at Temple at Eastern Carolina March 5th. If that's not on the big four letters, I'm not sure what's going on. Because ECU, they were on again yesterday. I don't know how. I don't know why. They were on again.
Not on the big channel, though, right?
I think on the ESPNU or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And this game on March 5th will be on ESPNU. Temple at ECU. Temple's on CBS Sports Network tonight and Thursday, and they're versus UConn Saturday the 7th, ESPN2, making the big jump. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 wins in a row, stopped by SMU. So Temple, second half team. I crunched the numbers there a couple days ago. David's got SDSU as a 15, which they may be. I've got them as a 14, just based on the RPI of the other teams. Strength of schedule is not very good, but there's other teams that have bad strength of schedules. There's around 200, not very good. They don't have any signature wins besides North Dakota State, even if that is one. I got them as a 14 right now. I know we talked about that. NDSU would be a 16, but I see. I would hope they would get a 14, especially if they beat NDSU again and they win that conference tournament.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And again, that 13, 14, 15, 16, those lines are probably the most movement coming as far as the automatic bids and who gets those numbers. The S curve that a lot of people use to rank them 1 through 68. SDSU is the second strongest 15 seed that I have, so definitely a possibility. If they don't lose again, if they beat USD next week and they win the tournament, they probably will wind up at 14 in my final bracket.
You have Wisconsin and Kansas. Why did you put Wisconsin in Omaha?
Why not?
As opposed to Louisville, or I guess I haven't looked at the mileage, but I would wonder if that was, or Columbus, or I was thinking that like a team like Iowa State would maybe be more likely to go to Omaha as opposed to. I know that it's, if you're a 2 seed, obviously you have priority over a 3 seed, but
right.
I was just curious.
Yeah, again, there's decisions that are, obviously I don't have any say in any real big reasons, but I have Iowa State and Louisville, so it's just the way the bracket worked down, just the other teams that I have with Wisconsin, too, in Omaha. I think it would make more sense that way. I have Michigan State in Omaha, too. I have that potential Kansas-Michigan State second-round matchup right now in the bracket I have. I think, you could make an argument Michigan State should be in Columbus, they should be in Louisville or whatever. It's just, again, there's a lot of movement coming, and that's just the way I have it. There's really no set reason that I can tell you right now.
I just asked because I think that I think there's going to be two. Omaha's, I think, banking on obviously Kansas being there, and then there'll probably be some other Big 12 team that is a major draw. But we'll see exactly how that goes. And obviously, if it's Wisconsin, Wisconsin will bring plenty of fans as well. The one thing that I think is most interesting about the actual bracket when it's made, and I'm not sure how much of this you took into account, but it seems like there's always, and maybe this is just a product of the field, but there's always like intriguing matchups, like matchups that are too good to just naturally appear. Like they put teams together, for storyline factors.
Yep.
They would never admit to that, but it sure seems like that's the case. And I guess I haven't closely examined your bracket, but it seems like that's always a factor in the actual bracket that's made out. I don't have a great example, but if I looked at last year's bracket, I could give you 10 of them.
Sure.
Whoa, 10 of them, that's a lot.
I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, there's some of that was, Kentucky, Indiana, for instance, meeting in Louisville in the second round. Two.
Well, yeah. Last year, what was it? Was that when Kentucky and Wichita State played?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then in my bracket right now, even this year, I have Kentucky potentially playing Indiana. Just as far as those two schools. Yeah. I have potential Bill Self, Tom Izzo second round matchup coaching wise. I know exactly what you're saying. I have Virginia, Ohio State, and Charlotte. Hello. Ohio State. Those are two big name schools and two proud programs. But there's definitely they finagle as much as they can to get those matchups.
Missouri Valley's getting 2 teams in. Northern Iowa, Wichita State. You have Northern Iowa as a 3. Damn near undefeated. They lost at Evansville. My Purple Aces beat them by 3. And they lost at VCU in double overtime by 6 in a high-scoring game. Wichita State 3 losses as well. They'll play one more time coming up next Saturday, so that's worth a watch, and they'll probably play in the conference tournament championship game. So do you cap them as a 3 seed? No way they could get a 2.
Yeah, they're very hard cap at a 3. To be honest with you, they're probably going to be a 4, and they'll probably get moved to a 4 in my thing tomorrow. And just looking at the RPI and all the other numbers, they're not really don't warrant anything more than a 3. A lot of people have them as a 4 or 5 right now, even though I think that might be not fair to them. Right now, I have them as a 3 seed, playing in Jacksonville, which one of these again. This is a first round site that looks horrendous on paper. You look at it in Jacksonville, I have San Diego State, Oregon, Northern Iowa, and Valpo. Tell me how they're going to sell any tickets for anybody to go down there and watch that. That's a part of the reason, again, where I say it's so hard to get some of these matchups, and having San Diego State and Oregon both come across the entire country to play in Jacksonville on Thursday and Saturday of that first round. Not likely, but we'll see what happens.
Hey, I just want you to know you're doing a great job.
Yes.
Well, I'm trying. Like I said, hopefully I can get the 64 or 65 of the teams correct, picked into the field as far as the bubble teams and whatnot, and the seeding and the where they're going to be playing will just be a bonus.
What's that site with all the consensus picks? They show like 50 damn brackets.
Bracket Project, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Bracket Matrix, but yeah.
Bracket Matrix, yeah, that's it.
That's right. Trax, any team you're high on right now? Any team you like? Maybe last year for me it was Michigan State, Louisville, and everybody took them and they lost early on. And any teams? Maybe this will be a year where we're picking the 1 seeds all the way, and we'll go with that. Any 3-4 seeds? We're like, yeah, I could probably see myself picking them. I want to pick them to go Elite 8, Final 4.
Well, I'm on the record of Kentucky. That doesn't count.
No. Like for me, Iowa State's interesting to me. They can score boatload of points. 3 seed maybe. They're interesting. I mean, I think they would. They had an injury last year. I think they would have beat Connecticut if not for that injury. I think I picked them to win 3 games last year. So I think I might be on them again.
I'm looking at David's bracket. Another storyline: Maryland and North Carolina, former ACC team, playing in the second round. That's pretty good. And I'm just looking at this little pod. LSU. We've talked about the SEC a lot this year. How it's much improved. They can beat SMU in the first round. I think SMU is a good club, but they can beat SMU, and then they'd have a chance at Iowa State. I think LSU is certainly capable. I think that's probably the one team in the SEC other than Kentucky that I like, LSU.
Okay.
No love for Arkansas?
Arkansas is good. I have to admit I haven't seen a ton of Arkansas this year, but that's how I feel.
And LSU right now is an 11 seed in my bracket I have out, but they're going to be probably when it's all said and done, 8 or 9. So their matchup might not be so
might not be as good. Yeah.
Pac-12, Stanford, UCLA, questionable to get in right now. Utah, Arizona, the cream of the crop. What's the other team getting in there? Oregon.
Yep.
Looking forward, probability they only get 3. UCLA already at 16 and 11, I think. So Stanford, UCLA, their prospects they're right there.
Stanford, just my little update this morning. I didn't do obviously a full update of bracket. Stanford after this weekend or after yesterday is my last team in. They'll be back into the bracket on tomorrow unless something else drastically changes. UCLA is in dire straits. Oregon is in pretty well dire straits. They get a big opportunity next couple of days. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they got a pretty big game tonight. I think Oregon, Utah play, so Oregon will have a chance to improve their resume drastically. But I think there's probably a 90% chance that the Pac-12 only ends up with 3 teams.
Ooh, there you go. Michigan putting the boots to Ohio State here. So
both those teams are fraud.
Well, Michigan sucks, but Ohio State. We'll see how that goes. Duke.
That was after I was singing the praises of Ohio State last week.
That's all good. Duke Carolina was passed Wednesday. Didn't think it'd be close. Did not start close. Carolina then played very well for the majority. Duke, per usual, comes back, wins in overtime. Best game you've seen this year? Drew liked it. I liked it. David's watched a lot. Is this the best game you've seen this year?
Yeah, and a lot of that, obviously, it's
The rivalry.
Yeah, it's pretty much entrenched in that rivalry that you're gonna have a good game. So I think actual gameplay wise and actual on court stuff, yeah, it was top 5 game I've seen this year. But the atmosphere, the names, the schools on the front of the jersey and the coaches on the sidelines added to that. I wasn't really all that impressed or enamored with either team's defensive effort. I think that was my biggest takeaway, is that Duke is obviously super talented. The biggest thing with them in the last 2-3 weeks is Justice Winslow finally pulling his head out of his ass and playing like the talented player that he is. That's huge for them moving forward into March here. But they're still very, very beatable, and that loss at home to Miami is still entrenched in my head right now.
Marcus, good game?
Good game. I think David hit it out of the park with his analysis.
Boom!
Because, home run!
It's a home! How about this? A lot of people were shitting their pants. Dick Vitale wasn't on the broadcast. Jay Billis was. Sad Dick Vitale. Applesauce man, what's going on?
I mean, I like Dickie V some days, but he's not going to be around forever. Jay Billis is pretty clearly the #1 analyst. I don't have a huge issue with it. It is kind of sad that that's been his rivalry game for the last 30 years, and he didn't get to do it. But sometimes we all don't get to do things we want to do.
Hey, he did Clemson Duke, so what's there to complain about?
What's there to complain about? Yeah, I mean, Clemson. Hello.
Woody Dantzler tearing it up as usual. So it's fine with me, I guess. Sharks Kings played outside last night. What did I miss? Levi Stadium. WrestleMania 31. Look out.
The Kings did win. It was an important win for the Kings in the playoff hunt.
Is this how many tags do you get? Like deer tag, you get a couple deer tags. Playoff hunt. It's bow season, rifle season. Who the hell's killing who here?
Nobody's been killed yet. They're still on the prowl.
Pretty shitty hunters then.
It's going to be a while before somebody gets killed.
Well, let me know when that happens, because I'm quite interested.
April.
Okay. I'll mark my calendar.
Do it.
UFC press conference this past week. Tougher drug testing, more drug testing. Every fight, championship fights, drug tested. Main events, drug tested. Going to be a lot of money, millions of dollars to do this. David, big deal, necessary, impact.
Yes, it's a gigantic deal. I think it's absolutely necessary in impact-wise. I think short term, you're going to have a lot more guys failing tests. Long term, I think it's the best thing for the sport. Clean it up, a little bit more credibility back into it at a point now where, Dana and Lorenzo are 14 years into owning the company, and they're, it's probably bigger than they could even ever imagine just 14 years in after what it was for the first few years of his existence. It's a worldwide thing going on. Obviously, there's thousands and thousands of guys, new guys coming in, talent coming in. I think the biggest impact, like I said, short term, you're going to have a lot more big names and a lot more fights and a lot more whatever going to be not happening or not, being delayed or, whatnot with all these tests coming back because they're in it, they're in it up to their eyeballs, and if you are one to believe you can take Lorenzo at his word, he's willing to invest whatever it costs to clean up the sport. So we'll see.
The big thing for me is the penalties. 2 years for the first offense, 4 years for the second. If that's what it is, that's a big deterrent. I'm all about making the penalty stiffen up to where guys don't do it. And once you get to that point, which I believe this is 2 years, that's a pretty goddamn stiff penalty. Yep. I'm in favor of that. So if you get caught, you're screwed.
Exactly, because you think about that. Right now, the Nevada State Athletic Commission is pushing for a 2-year first-time ban, which would be 2 years. You think about with only fighting probably on average 2.5 times a year. That takes 4 or 5 fights out of somebody's career, and that's a pretty decent chunk. And there's a lot of people pushing. Lorenzo said that he wouldn't be necessarily opposed to researching and looking into the fact of a potential that 4-year ban being for the first time, not a second time. The second time would be pretty much you're done. The first time would be a 4-year ban, and that would be taking so much time and money and so much advancing the fighters out. That you would have to be pretty much idiotic to even think about doing anything that would take that much time out off of your short career as it is.
4-year ban first time, second time you're done for good.
Right.
Because what I saw, McLean, the linebacker, Rolando McLean, his third offense for some drug-related issue, and a 4-game suspension or a loss of 4 game checks. I mean, the third time you should be, if not a year suspension, more. Third time, no. Third time should be more than 4.
Absolutely.
That's ridiculous. As a outsider, Marcus, is there a view that the UFC is steroids? This is fairly, I don't want to say it's fairly recent. John Jones has got a thing. Anderson Silva's thing, that was a big deal. You haven't really had any, outside of those two, you really haven't had any championship holders that I can remember that have tested positive. Is this an issue? Is this a stigma with the UFC where you think steroid guys, fighters UFC?
I was going to say the exact same thing you brought up, because I couldn't think of anybody else other than these last 2 instances where you've had drug test failures in UFC, and I don't follow it that closely. But I think if you want to be taken seriously as a sport, obviously UFC has a lot of people who take them seriously, but it's not the biggest sport. And I think if it wants to get to that point, it has to be tough on drug testing. I'll be skeptical, because I'm kind of skeptical of a lot of things that UFC does, just because I don't even know if I'd call myself a fan, but to become a fan, it's going to take a while. The one comparison
you watched some fights.
I've watched some fights. Yeah, I still wouldn't call myself a fan. I think the one thing I would say about UFC is that they have. You can look at other sports and see what not taking care of drug testing has done. The biggest example is obviously cycling, where everybody takes drugs and it's almost become just part of the deal now, and it's ruined. I'm not into cycling, but for that sport and for the Tour de France, how many titles have they vacated? A lot of them Lance Armstrong's. They've had to vacate a lot of titles, and they've had a lot of people. They just haven't taken it very seriously. You could argue that, baseball certainly did that for a while, and you guys are believers. I don't know. I don't know what to think about the NFL and steroids. I definitely believe that players take steroids, and I believe that nothing's being done to them. I don't know how widespread it is, but that's just me. So, long story longer, I'm impressed that UFC has proposed, right?
Yes.
That these things be done. 2 years. I don't know how long the average fighting career is. What, 6, 7 years, maybe 8 years? I don't know, but
in the UFC itself, the top organization it's less than that. But overall, they could go fight in other companies for. I'd say the average is probably you start when you're 20, 22, and by the time you're 30, 32, you're pretty much, unless you're one of the big timers and still going strong, you're looking high and low for anywhere to work. So yeah, probably 8, 9 years.
So 2 years is still an important amount of time. 4 years would even be bigger. That is a career killer, and 2 years might be a career killer too. So I'm encouraged by this, and UFC hasn't really done, because it's, and you guys can speak to this. UFC, you do things Dana White's way, or you don't do them at all. And so the fact that he's on board with this is a good sign, and the fact that I don't know what has precipitated this. You guys can probably speak to that. but obviously he feels like this is important. He's got to do something. And that's good. Whatever, I'm glad that's the case.
The reason for that, real quick, is the quote-unquote, in a lot of people's eyes, the best fighter ever, Anderson Silva, getting popped twice. Really, really opened some eyes for anybody that had any, inclination to be a fight fan or whatever. Everyone knew Anderson Silva, and for him to fail two tests on the heels of John Jones doing the cocaine bit, whatever, it was just a snowball that really set something into action. I don't know if this would have came, eventually anyways, and this just got, fast forward because of recent events or not, but either way, I'm hopeful that it's for the best.
And yeah, you're going to lose fans' trust if you just ignore it. I mean, I think there's something to be said for the NFL in that case.
Their fans are dumb.
The NFL's fans are dumb?
They're dumb as hell, yeah.
Well, I don't know that UFC's fans are that bright either.
Well, no, not really, but and Anderson Silva, he admits to no wrongdoing, which is great. Like, I didn't do it. What am I apologizing for? I didn't do a damn thing.
Yeah.
And there's some states, I think Texas, they don't have out of competition testing, which is ridiculous. So it's like, yeah, you're gonna test me at this state? Okay, I'll get off of my shit 3 weeks before, so I'll be fine. No worries of me getting caught. So.
Yeah, that's the biggest real factor is the out of competition testing being ramped up because you're gonna be getting guys and guys aren't they're not gonna know when they're getting tested. It's gonna be random and whatever, and that's why I said the numbers of failed tests probably go through the roof here in the short term.
And finally, we have Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, rumored for a while, picking up steam the last month or so. It's been official. May 2nd, they will fight. A couple of 30-year-old men will fight. May 2nd. Will you be watching this, Mr. Traxler?
I will. I'll be watching. I'll seek it out. This is the fight of the year. What, 3-4 years too late? So, fight of the century, whatever the hell you want to call it.
The fight of the week.
Fight of the week. So that's good that this is finally happening. What is the split on this? I imagine Mayweather's getting more than Pacquiao, right?
Like 60-40?
Yeah, it's 60-40 or like 61-39 even. It's
like $120 million for Mayweather and $80 million for the president of Indonesia.
When it's all said and done, it's going to be even more than that. I think Floyd would probably be in that 150 range.
So Floyd Mayweather.
And is there any truth to the rumor that these guys are going to fight this and then they're going to fight 2 more times?
May as well.
I read that somewhere. From a source so reputable I can't even tell you where I saw it. But
that would be the ultimate proof that they're just in it for the money at this stage. Then if they did that, because Floyd's 47-0 or whatever he is. If he beats Manny the first time, he is 48-0. I don't see him fighting. If he beats Manny, there's not going to be a rematch. I think there's only potential rematch if Manny beats him and Floyd demands a rematch, and obviously money's there. I'm sure Pacquiao would be.
I'd tell him if I was Pacquiao and I won, I'd tell him to suck my cock. You want another one? Go to hell. I won. I'm done. I'm going to retire.
Yeah. I kind of agree that from Manny's, Floyd's got a heck of a lot more to lose in this fight, even though he's making more. But he's, history-wise, whatever, Floyd losing that perfect record at this stage would be quite damaging for his legacy. Even though his legacy is already pretty well, has several black marks all over it. But I think I've said this to several people ever since it was announced. I think Floyd demolishes him. I don't think it gets stopped, but I think Floyd jukes and jives and plays defense and hits him with the shots that he needs to and wins a very easy, unanimous decision. So,
do you feel the same way, Marcus?
I think, I think Floyd Mayweather wins this fight. To what degree, I don't know. I think it's pretty clear that Pacquiao has lost a punch or two, per se. And
both. I think both have a little bit.
I both probably have, but are they the same age? Is that right?
Yeah, Pacquiao is like 36. Floyd's 37. They're I mean, yeah. 77, 76 when they were born. Well, you look at Pacquiao got knocked out by Juan Manuel Marquez here about 2 years ago, which is about the 15th time that those two have fought, so that's nice. The Timothy Bradley fight, I mean, you want to look at a fight, I mean, I'm watching that, kind of bored out of my mind. Yeah, Pacquiao won this, and Bradley wins a split decision. Jesus Christ. That's probably the worst. If I had to say what's the worst screw job I've seen in boxing or in fighting as far as the scoring, that was by far the worst. That was not even close. So I you know, it's gonna be a lot of money, and it's finally gonna happen, which I think I'm kind of surprised it actually did happen. Maybe you thought at the end of their careers they'll finally come together a couple of years later than what we wanted.
I'm just saying all kinds of things in this show that I don't really know anything about. But I think that's what this show's really for. I think, you know, Mayweather has such an ego that he cares a lot about what people think of him. And if he didn't fight Pacquiao, it would always be brought up for the rest of time. And so I'm guessing that he thought I should make my best effort, or some sort of effort. He's not going to make his best effort. Make some sort of effort to fight him. And Pacquiao took him up on it, and so here we are. I think David can speak to that because he knows. But am I off base there, or does that make any sense?
It sounds right.
Yeah, you're pretty close. I think I don't think there's been a lot of people saying that Floyd's been scared, you know, for legacy-wise to fight Manny, because Manny definitely has a chance. He definitely has a chance when May rolls around. I personally just don't see it. You know, people that know a heck of a lot more about it than I do, you know, the betting odds that came out right away put it 65-35% chance of Floyd winning. So he's definitely the odds-on favorite at this point. But I think you're right that if he wouldn't have fought Manny at all, there would be always those detractors saying, "Oh yeah, you were undefeated and you ended up 15-0 and world title holder for the longest time. You know, obviously never lost, but you didn't fight the second best fighter during your era, and that fight never happened because because you were scared because you didn't want to lose." And now that he's doing that, assuming that he does win, he can have one less thing to worry about people trying to take away from his accomplishments.
He's still an asshole, but at least he'll have a perfect record.
Yeah, just remember, Travis will get a kick out of this. Just remember, Floyd, he can catch it. He was able to knock out the Big Show even. So
he's actually 48-0, not 47-0. So
really?
we count that Big Show one as a.
There we go.
That was on a fight. Yeah, 47-0 wins this one. I'd say 2 more fights. 50-0. What is it? Marciano's 49-0.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So you get to 50-0, you say, "See you later. We'll bet on Kentucky to win the whole tournament this year, make a couple million." So,
yep.
Got the pay-per-view tonight. WWE last pay-per-view before WrestleMania. Finish of the main event: Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan. What will it be?
That's the $1 million question, and
okay, what would you do? I was saying, David, here you go. What would you do?
Interference, obviously. I don't know from who. I don't know how you necessarily do it. I think
the Bushwhackers.
The match itself, I think they're going to have Bryan pretty well be in control, which goes against everything that I've really thought of this feud. Really, I'm trying to play this out in my head and trying to get it to Mania and see what happens. But I think Bryan in control of the match, and somehow somehow somebody comes out and there's a lot of confusion, and they think that Reigns wins by disqualification. That means that Bryan's not in it because he lost technically because one of the members of the Authority, Kane comes out and God bless it, Kane comes out and hits him with something, and the match is over, and then maybe have Triple H come out and announce, well, no, best for business and all, and kind of make it seem like they're not going to do anything, and then out of nowhere just announce that, by the way, because Kane went against my orders or whatever, and So Brian will be in the main event too. It'll be a triple threat. That seems awfully simplistic and kind of childish, but I can't think of anything better off the top of my head. I'm sure they'll come up with something. It's going to involve the Authority in some respect. Obviously, it's going to involve interference, to involve some sort of maybe a crooked ref, or maybe they'll go the crooked ref route again. They haven't done that in a while, so we'll see. I'll be watching. I'll be interested. I'm sure I'll be annoying the heck out of you guys with some messages later.
Yeah, I'll say screw you finish, no finish, triple threat is what we get. So Sting, he'll make an appearance. What's going to happen there?
Boy, I'll tell you what, it's be very interesting. I want to see what he looks like. I want to see what they do. I want to see how long it goes. I want to see everything about that. I'm very excited. My hopes are really high, and I've already kind of accepted the fact that I'm more than likely going to be let down because I don't think it's going to be as good as I think it.
I think it'll be good. It'll be pretty good.
It'll be good, but obviously Sting's 55. It's not like he's in his prime. It's not like they're going to be out there for 30 minutes beating the hell out of each other. But we'll see. It'll be fun no matter what to have him in a WWE ring in an actual match. So we'll see what happens. I think that's another match. All of tonight could be screwy finishes, interference, the whole bit. I don't know how they're going to have that one booked. I think Hunter has to win, obviously, unless
No. Well, what they'll
if Hunter wins, I was getting at Hunter has to win by some sort of screwy interference or some sort of whatever.
At WrestleMania?
Right. He can't win clean tonight, so we'll see.
I'll say I don't know if they announce their match tonight for WrestleMania. We'll see, or if they hold that off for a couple more weeks. Marcus, WrestleMania, you're very excited.
Yep.
Very good. The Sports Lounge, no show in 2 weeks. It's our 1 week a year that we miss because Summer League tournament time and the world stops for lower level college basketball tournaments in Sioux Falls. So, show next week. Wanted to mention how stupid, what a stupid ass Adrian Peterson is, but we can pick up on that anytime. I'd like to come back. I'd like to come back to the Vikings. 2 weeks later, no, I don't want to come back. I don't want to come back. They just paid me $10 million to do nothing this year, but I really don't want to come back. So I'm sure that story will get boring. And next week, talk about the baseball rules or changes some stuff, which may or may not make a difference. So Gordon's looking pretty good almost halfway through this race. He's been leading most of the way. So, are you happy?
Yeah, like I said last week, we made a picks earlier on today. I said Jimmy winning today and Logano winning the championship, but I'll stick with what I said last week. I'm rooting for Gordon to win his races and win the title this year and go out on top. So I'm happy so far today.
No cautions, I don't believe. So this one going at a pretty good clip.
2, I think.
Have there been?
Yeah, there's been so far, but
Both been fairly minor. Tony Stewart's basically done.
Oh,
Because
dang.
of he got clipped on the front fender. So
yeah, it's regardless. It's been a pretty fast-moving race compared to the last few years.
Alrighty, that'll do it for the 106 Sports Lounge.
find out who wins next week.
Find out who wins 127 hours from now. Charlie Hildebrand, he'll be back. Big news on his front. We've sent him off. He's doing big business in the big city. So we'll welcome him. He'll be back from Minot, Nebraska, or Minot, North Dakota next week. So tune in, why won't you? The last Sports Lounge for 2 weeks. I'm sure Marcus, you plan to be at the Summer League tournaments?
That's the plan, yeah. For sure some of it. Maybe all of it.
And I would bet we will have a Sports Lounge extra at some establishment in the Tri-State area.
Count on it.
In 2 weeks. So we'll cheer on our Pios, and we'll hope they do well.
The Mastodons.
No. Steve! Let's go, Steve! Yes.
I can't wait.
Okay, let's get into this now. What makes why is it my favorite goddamn thing of the year? Why?
Because it's so stupid.
Is it your favorite thing of the year?
Yeah, and I think it is because, like, the team, like my favorite part is like a 3 versus 6 game that SDSU.
I mean, the SDSU part, the big crowds, those are great.
That's fine. That's good. But I like the teams that are. It's like 2 teams not from the area.
1,000 miles away.
It's not a full arena. People kind of care, but even like the teams aren't even playing that hard. Like they're not selling out usually to win the game, and I don't know. I just like it. It's fun, and I'm eager to see how the event plays in the new arena. I think it'll be fun. So, a lot to look forward to.
Chance that Amon makes it.
I don't know. I guess we haven't heard from him, so I'm going to say not great, but we'll see. Hope so.
David, what's your like thoughts? Would you attend?
I've actually never attended. I've watched a lot of TV coverage, almost way too much TV coverage, and I'll be watching as much as I can. I got enough channels up here. I get even the women's quarters games and all that. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be tuned in. I do like it. I do like the atmosphere. Obviously, in South Dakota State's in the final, men's or women's. It comes through well on TV. I'm not a fan of Clay Matvick and what's his face calling the championship game.
Oh.
But it's improved recently, and I'll be. I told Marcus I took a look at the full men's standings, basketball standings, for the first time in like a couple days ago. So I'm trying to get caught up in anticipation of who's going to be where and who's going to be losing to the to SDSU in the final.
From downtown, he hits Clay Matvick. Bang!
And next week, we'll also preview that. Some like tournament brackets will be announced, so we'll go in depth. We'll be inside the sports lounge, inside the tournament brackets.
Inside the sports lounge.
Good.